Hey y'all, how you doing? It's your girl Emma D here, thinking thoughts about things, and it has been a while since I thought things with y'all. Mostly because it really hasn't been a great time to be a thinker right now. But c'est la vie. Here we are. So I've been thinking about a lot of things. Life has come pretty fast this year. We had to put down our oldest dog last week, and I don't know. Life's interesting, and then the stories just keep coming so fast. I'm not even sure how to cover them all, and then went a little while without filming, so now here we are. But there has been something that I couldn't really parse together. And now I have more of a concept that I want to talk to you guys about, because the theys don't want me to, but whatever, we're talking about the thems and the theys, the todays. So, video came out of the Tyre Nichols incident. Beating, bludgeoning, murder, whatever we're calling it at this point. And of course, I'm not going to play it because we're going to talk about some of it, but in bigger concepts, rest in peace to Tyre, because this is beyond senseless, but I actually think there is some kind of sense to it that scares me, and I'd like to talk about that, if you guys would indulge me. So when I watched the footage, of course, it was awful. It was awful, but there was something that was going on there that really kind of got my attention, and it was the footage. There was the body cam, the initial interactions, the things that were being said to him that would have caused anyone to run away, because quite frankly there was nothing safe about that interaction, and what was being asked of him wasn't possible. Any sane human being would have been afraid for their life. But it was when they caught up to him, and then there was this series of little pieces where one officer calls in the location, and then they have this camera up in an angle that pans, and then centers on him, and it was very cinematic, and then it just goes to a horrific scene. But in watching it, I was struck with the concept that I was watching this from an elevated, safe position within my home, but it was a window. It was a literal and metaphoric window into this. You were watching it out of your window, and the utter helplessness that came from that feeling that there's no one to call, there's nothing. What do you do when it's police officers doing this? So there was a feeling, there was a lot of emotion in how it was presented, and I wasn't going to question it because I think thoughts, but it was a rude thought to think until the New York Times wanted to get involved and give me more information, and now I feel like I have a right to speak. So the New York Times posted this link in the description. As officers beat Tyre Nichols, a crime-fighting camera watched over them. A Skycop camera in Memphis provided overhead footage that was instrumental in shaping the public's understanding of what unfolded. So, here we go. Memphis. The body camera worn by the Memphis police officers who stopped Tyre Nichols recorded his anguished cries and the conflicting orders that were virtually impossible for him to obey, as the officers punched and pepper sprayed him, though those cameras were often jostled, pointed away, or dark. But the residential streets where the officers had caught up with Mr. Nichols after he ran from them on the night of January 7th happened to have another camera trained on it, affixed to a utility pole in a white metal box with a bright blue light. It was one of the hundreds of Skycop cameras, as they are known, that the Memphis Police Department had installed around the city. It was watching from above, recording as Mr. Nichols was beaten, and then as officers and medics delayed providing aid. He died 3 days later. Glory be to God that a Skycop camera was there to catch what happened, Van D. Turner Jr., the president of Memphis branch of the NAACP, said last week. The overhead footage, publicly released on Friday, along with some of the officers' body camera videos, has been widely regarded as critical in shaping the public's understanding of what unfolded after the police pulled over Mr. Nichols that night by offering an unobstructed bird's eye view. Camera systems like SkyCop, which have been adopted by police departments around the country, have been criticized by activists and privacy advocates as a costly investment that does little to deter crime while adding to the overbearing presence that the police often have in neighborhoods, especially poor ones, where the cameras have proliferated. Yet in this case, the round-the-clock cameras have been a vital tool for accountability, as Mr. Nichols' death has unleashed pain and anger in the Memphis and cities around the country. It just so happens that in the case of Tyre, those cameras worked out in that way, said Chelsea Glass, the organizer with Descartes Memphis, a group pushing for overhauling the criminal justice system. Okay, the bulk of the footage released by city officials on Friday came from body cameras and showed Mr. Nichols, who the police initially said had stopped for reckless driving, being pulled from his car and then running away. But the release also included about 31 minutes of video taken by SkyCop, starting with a feed showing the tranquil winding streets lined with brick homes before panning over to where officers had stopped Mr. Nichols on foot. From then on, it captured a scene of escalating brutality as well as the immediate aftermath. The footage showed the officers kicking Mr. Nichols and pummeling him with a baton. Minutes later, he could be seen slumped on the ground against a police car without receiving any care from officers or medics who had arrived on the scene. That particular video is what I think demonstrates not just the inhumanity, but the grave disregard for this man's rights and his life, said the Reverend Dr. J. Lawrence Turner, the pastor of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, where Mr. Nichols' funeral was to be held on Wednesday. The Skycam video makes the difference, Pastor Turner said, adding that if we were only left with the body cam footage, it would still be harrowing and infuriating, but possibly not as conclusive to prosecutors as they consider charges against the officers. 5 of them were charged with second-degree murder, among other things, last week for the death of Mr. Nichols. The Sky Cop camera that captured the beating is one of more than 2,000 that have been stationed around the city, all of which send back live feed to the police department's real-time crime center. Operators there are able to pan and zoom the cameras, like the one providing footage in this case, which have a range of about 200 feet. So I'm just going to say the quiet part out loud. We're in Truman Show. Are we going to talk about the shadow community and the lurkers? Okay, so hold on, there was another thing that interested me. So here's the update, that the death of Tyre Nichols. 5 Memphis police officers have been charged in the death of Tyre Nichols, a black man, after a traffic stop escalated into a brutal beating. Police report. An official police report was written hours after the beating of Mr. Nichols offered a starkly different account of police violence than what the video had shown. Scorpion Unit. The Memphis Police Department disbanded the specialized street crime unit after 5 of its officers were charged in the murder of Mr. Nichols' death. EMTs suspended. The 2 emergency medical technicians who first arrived to treat Mr. Nichols after he had been beaten did not provide any care for 19 minutes after getting to the scene, a regulatory agent concluded as it was voted to suspend their licensing. The latest of many blows. Mr. Nichols' fatal beating is one of many traumatic events that have helped shape the story of Memphis. Okay. So you told me about the cops and the EMTs. Okay. Who's talking about the group, an entire group, apparently, of crime? They quote the guy that panned the camera. So you're telling me there's an entire group somewhere in this unit that was watching this. They had the camera on it. They were sitting there. They were watching all of this happen. They also chose not to do anything, apparently, and we're not going to talk about the shadow people because they have no names, right? We're supposed to be happy that Big Brother saw this footage and that they watched it and released it to us, but it really was a window in. They watched this man, they watched this incident, and then pointed the finger at everyone else, but we're just not going to talk about that. Okay, sure. thanks shadow people for doing absolutely nothing to help this situation. But there's some other things about that. So the Scorpion unit was disbanded, you say? That's weird. Think Scorpion unit might have had a problem. Okay. I want to talk about the psyche of Scorpion unit and how these individuals who clearly watched Training Day 1 too many times decided that they were just going to be renegade street cops pulling people out of cars and killing them in mob style beating circles of vicious gang mentality. Okay, how does that? Because this is a police reform issue, right? And they need better training. And I hypothesize something different. I hypothesize that they need better minimum qualifications. And what I mean by that is this. In order to be a police officer, you need to go to the police academy, which is a 16-week training course in my state and in many states, just, 16 weeks. You need a GED and you need to pass a physical and you need to go to summer camp. Now, for comparison to cut hair in my state, it's 2 years, and tattoos is 3 to 4. But a cop is 16 weeks. Yes, okay. In 16 weeks, you're telling me that a 16-week course got these people where they need to be. All right. I spent years in school learning many, many things in my given profession. Years and years. 16. I did rotations that were longer than that. Shit. 16 weeks. Damn, that's cute. Okay. So, and then I got out and I got a job in my field, right? And I knew fuck all. Like most of us, I knew nothing. I had a great education, great background, great fundamental understanding, and then I had to figure it out like the rest of us do. And that's with a great background. Okay, 16 weeks. Okay, so these people, what'd you learn? I'm curious. In 16 weeks, did you learn laws and regulations? Did you learn about people's rights? Did you learn I don't know, about the Miranda rights? Did you learn holds? Did you learn how to grab people up? Learn how to write a ticket? What'd you learn? 16 weeks, huh? That sounds, I'm really intrigued to know what prepared you in that time to be given a badge and a gun and set on the rest of us. And the reason I question this is because we can talk about training till we're blue in the face. I got years of school. I still go to trainings that's not minimum qualifications. Okay. What is the basic? And why would it behoove us to have people out here with guns and badges that went to summer camp? I gotta ask, I gotta know, this is one of the scariest jobs. And then we wonder how this kind of proliferation happens. Okay, so you have a bunch of ignorant people, and this is no disrespect. I have no overt problem with cops. I'm just talking about the systematic things that are going on here that just make absolutely no sense to me. We created a system in which the regulation for cutting my hair is considerably more stringent. I mean, considerably more stringent than your ability to pull me out of my car and murder me, apparently. So, let's talk about why that would be and how, what? Like 16 weeks? Who decided that? How did we decide? Like, oh my God, you have to go to school for a whole lot longer than that to do almost anything. I mean, what? 16? So we created a system of people that don't know anything. And then they get out and they got this badge and they got this gun and they look to their mentors who also got to go to summer camp that one time. So, Scorpion units is what happens. It's basic psychology. It's the Zimbardo effect. It's the Stanford experiments. And they took a bunch of students and then they did some basic behavioral and personality assessments and then categorized them into prisoner and a warden or and the catastrophic downfall that went from people who were levelized, right? They were all students, and then someone just said, "You're the cop, you're the prisoner." Oh, hell breaks loose. It's really basic psychology. Like, they would know this if they went to more than fucking 16 weeks of school. This isn't about training after the fact. This is about educating people properly. Are you kidding me? The psychological implications of what on here is basic gang mentality, and it's what goes on everywhere. Why do you think this culture exists? They have to protect each other's ignorance. They know nothing. You and me, like, we can learn, we can outsmart them with a little bit of gumption and like a Saturday night every once in a blue moon. 16 weeks. Are you freaking kidding? So of course things like this happen because we can challenge them and they don't like it. We can't challenge them because they have the badge and the gun and they're hiding behind ignorance. This is the exact response you get when you challenge anyone that doesn't know what they're talking about with real facts, but they have power. This is scary, and we need to discuss what's going on here, because the fact of the matter is, regardless of what this kid did or didn't do, regardless of what any of us do or do not do, the cop's job is simply to ticket us or jail us, but they don't actually get to pass sentence on us. That's up to a judge and a jury. Now, these people go to school forever. We're talking Juris Doctorates. We're talking hardcore education, bars, exams, override. And then judges, like, they had to do all that and then get elected or appointed to their position. These people, so this is money, right? That's an expensive room to keep running. So wouldn't it benefit us to have the stupidest people possible on the streets with guns that are just more willing to kill us? Because, hey, no, we don't have to deal with more of that. And then we get to blame the ignorant cops and talk about how we need better reform, when in reality, we need to talk about the fact that our states don't care about us. Our government doesn't care about us. They care more to regulate who puts ink on our skin and dye in our hair than who has guns in our streets and who has badges to protect us. This is what I think is the problem. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it seems to me that there's a whole lot of song and dancing around the fact that the policing system at this point has become a beautiful slavery system in which we as the American people pay our enslavers. And now it's getting to the point where, they tried to, they race baited this a little bit with it's a black man and it was all black men that did it, and it was all, but that's still oppression of some. Yeah, it's oppression. It's oppression that we've allowed ignorant individuals the authority and ability to treat us like chattel. If we're going to demand better, we need to demand the right better. I mean, start at the beginning. You want to talk about how hard it is to recruit cops? Well, you're setting them up for failure from day one. Teach these people something. 16 weeks. What'd you learn in 16 weeks about dealing with people that are having, I don't know, mental or physical impairments or issues? What do you to de-escalate? What'd you possibly learn about basic psyche, about what you were doing, about what'd you learn about the laws and about their rights? I'm so intrigued as to know how our governing bodies have decided this is what we deserve. Rest in peace, Tyre. And for the rest of us, we need to keep fighting for what we deserve, and it's so much better than this. Sending you love and light. Guess I am going to keep talking about things. So, we'll have more things to talk about. There's, balloons getting shot down, and China's going to go to war with us anytime. I'll talk about some of that fun stuff. There's a lot going on there. I'm talking about stuff. All right, guys, have a good one. See you later. Emma D, out.